Hi, this is Catherine, and this is Taking Tea with Catherine. And this is a nice little afternoon drink. It is a lemon green tea, so it has that soothing lemoniness, lemoninity, and green tea, which I'm trying to drink more of, as you see. And in the morning I have to have my breakfast cuppa. You know what I mean? Like the strong English breakfast tea, usually with milk. It's like my version of coffee in the morning, but in the afternoon, something slightly chill. All right, so this is Tea and Mystery, and I vary my tea and mysteries according to what I have to say about them. I rarely will use one book for the entire session because there's very few books that I have that much to say about. But at times I've done up to four books, but this is two. I think I'm going to average two books. So the interesting thing, there's not a lot in common with these two books, except they both take place in London, because I still have some of those left in my reading list right now. But different time periods, and the interesting thing is the main character of the first book is a woman who would probably find herself useful now, because in her time she had to sort of work behind the scenes. And the second book is about someone whose age is, I can't even calculate, even though I can, if that makes any sense. I'll explain why later. But he's a person who lives in the modern times, but feels like he's out of time, like he probably belongs to the past. So let's get started. The first one was written, let me see, I knew this and I forgot. I'm pretty sure it was in the 90s, but we forget. 1993, yes. So this was written in 1993, but it is considered a Victorian mystery, The Inspector and Mrs. Jeffreys. It's a start of a series by Emily Brightwell. I've seen quite a few of them online. We'll see if I ever get any more of them. But as a debut, I guess, it was a good one. And a cozy mystery, because it centers around, excuse me, the Inspector Witherspoon lives in a house and that has a full, staff. He inherited the house, I think, and the staff, his aunt died or somebody. So, he's a police inspector, Scotland Yard, all that stuff. But when he started out, he was just working also kind of in a slightly clerical mode in the police force. I don't know what they call it back then. And something is squeaking outside. And his housekeeper is Mrs. Jeffreys. So she's kind of like the head of the house. And she is very intelligent. Apparently her husband, she's a widow, worked in some sort of capacity of law or something. And she just has a really good head on her shoulders for figuring things out. So she's been kind of like I don't want to say puppet master, but behind the scenes, she's been helping this man not only rise higher in his career, now he's an inspector, but to solve mysteries. So they refer to something that you think, oh, there must have been a book about this, something about Kensington, something, High Street. But yeah, but it's not. It's apparently this is the very first book, and I don't know if they'll ever go back to it. So in this book, a doctor is found dead. It looks like he's poisoned, and who would want him dead? Well, apparently a lot of people might want him dead. He's not a very likable person. It looks like he was poisoned by a mushroom, but this is for Mrs. Jeffreys to find out. So she does all kinds of little things, and she employs her entire staff. All the maids, the cook, the horseman, everybody, the gardener, to talk to other people, to go out and investigate. And they come to the conclusions. They actually help this man. They basically solve the mystery themselves, and the inspector just gets the credit. And he seems to be a very decent person, so you don't look at him like, oh, why does he get all the credit? But I would say, because it is a fun story, and if you like Downton Abbey, I know I've seen reviews that have said this, so I feel like I'm just repeating reviews. But if you like that sort of behind the scenes situation, what goes on downstairs, then you'll like this book. And it is cozy again. in that it's not gory. The actual death itself, the actual person who died is not missed, that sort of thing. And it's an easy, quick read. You know, it's little paperback. These are the kind of paperback mysteries I was reading for years, and I still do sometimes. I will say this, although I totally enjoyed this, and I would probably give it 4 stars. I don't enjoy the starring system. I might go into that one day. But I am not sure how quickly I'll get into the rest of the series, and I'll tell you why. Because even though it's good, I feel like if it's going to be the same formula every time, it might be a little like a shtick. You know what I mean? It'll be like, all right, so this kind of not very smart inspector is just kind of fumbling around for figuring things out and asking things, and then the housekeeper is just gonna find her way into the murder scene and find things out, and but don't let him know. That might get annoying after a while to me. So if any of you have read any more of these series, please let me know if that's how it continues. If it's a little bit like that, that's okay. But if it's just the same thing in each book, then I could probably use my time in another way. There's so many books to read. I was going to say so little time, but right now we just actually have nothing but time to read. So it is weird because when I say we, I mean, unless you work in a capacity or in a place where you're needed, a lot of us just aren't spending most of our time commuting, whatever. We're indoors. We're getting ourselves, safe, wherever it is, from infecting other people or being infected ourselves. We don't know. So you would think all this time, because this was a March Mystery Madness, and I had 5 books already on my list of those to read, and technically I've only read 2 of the things that I've picked, but I don't know. It's okay. But I thought I would have ripped through all of them, but it's just, I don't know. I find myself reading okay at a decent pace, but not at the miraculous pace I thought I was going to. However, this next book I have basically been reading this week, so I'm not reading, and it was enough of a page turner that I was able to enjoy it and not feel like it lagged at all. However, it takes very much place in London, in places that I was really hoping to be at right now, literally right now. It's such a weird thing, but even if I had been there, even if I had taken the plane over, it would not have been useful right now anyway. So anyway, let's not keep going about that. Let's just talk about mysteries, right? So this is Bryant and May, The Lonely Hour by Christopher Fowler, the Peculiar Crimes Unit. This is the latest one, apparently. And what I said before about the age thing, I'll tell you what confuses me. I've read this series out of order, and I don't mind it because I haven't really been spoiled too much about anything. It's not a big deal to read it out of order. However, I finally got to the first book in the series, and it actually basically gave you the ages of Bryant and May, and if that was their age in that story, in that book, then they would probably be close to 100 now. And I know they're supposed to be elderly, and that's kind of the joke, that they're still out there investigating and doing things. And Bryant is the older one. He's probably about 99 or something. Or maybe 100 even. It's just kind of, it takes, I almost wish they never would have mentioned their ages ever, because now it's just so hard to imagine someone, I'm not trying to be ageist whatsoever. It's just hard to imagine someone being out there in this capacity at all at that point. But sometimes you have to suspend your disbelief or whatever. This story, this is not a whodunit, because we know from the very beginning, from the first chapter, the name of the murderer. And you know who it is, and as you go on, this person does come into contact with the people, so, certain people are in danger. But it's really hard to figure out until the ending why he does what he does. So it starts off with a man who gets killed, and it's made to look, the murder scene is made to look like some kind of weird black magic ceremony. It was actually a stage situation. I don't want to give away a lot, but he's hung upside down from a tree, and there's all these little candles and paraphernalia, whatever. So that's why the Peculiar Crimes Unit gets involved, because it's not, the everyday situation. And then other people become in danger, and then you start to realize that there is something that connects them. And they seem to all be killed around 4 a.m., which apparently is what they consider the lonely hour. And yeah, I mean, if you've ever woken up at 4 in the morning, it is a weird time to be awake. But this one, it's good. It has some of the same repetitive things of some of the other parts of the police force in London are really trying to find a way to get them shut down. And that sometimes gets a little repetitive. I would like to read one book where they're not in some kind of tug of war between some higher ups and some, people who have nothing but, faults to find in them. But it's still good. It is sad though. There's a lot of personal sadness in this story. I mean, all of them have something that happens that could be a little bit sad. But this one was a bit gloomier, and it does, I don't want to give away spoilers, it does sort of leave you hanging a little bit at the ending. But sometimes I think people do that just so you keep reading, but I'm like, I would have kept reading without an ending like that, because that's, once you're into this series, I think you probably want to keep going. It has a lot of, it's funny how when you are reading about certain subjects and then they seem to pop up, especially when you're someone like me who is into certain subjects, but it's interspersed a lot of parts of the story with Arthur Bryant, who's one of the main characters. He also does walking tours of London, so they'll have little excerpts from his guides. So they'll have little facts about a certain place and its history, because he's very wrapped up in history. That's what I mean by living in the past. I mean, he feels what's he doing in this modern time when his brain is like in Victorian times and then Roman times, etc. But there's one part where suddenly they're speaking about the area around Dorset Street, and it's referred to as the worst street in London. And I was like, I just finished that book called The Worst Street in London, and I enjoyed it. But it's funny how, like, would I have even picked up on that reading that part of the book? Would it have even, stayed in my head at all if I hadn't read that book? I don't know. So sometimes it's kind of fun, and I really think, despite the fact that I couldn't make it this year to London, I really think it does help to read these series if you are into London. I'm not saying you have to be as obsessed with it as I am, but I also am curious if there is at all, because I just maybe haven't come across it, because there are just so many different series of mysteries out there, if there is any type of murder mystery series that takes place in New York in this kind of capacity. Not necessarily the Peculiar Crimes Unit, it doesn't have to be exactly like that situation, although that would be interesting, but something that makes New York City the main character, that is such a part of it. Not that it just takes place there, because that's easy enough to do, but like that really is saturated with New York. I would like to find something like that, and maybe I can make it my own personal mission, because it would maybe keep me grounded where I'm living a little bit. But if you guys know about anything, please let me know. So yeah, this is not my favorite of the series. I have to say, it's not my least favorite, because there were one or two that took place outside of London, and even though they were pretty good, I think their strength is in London itself. That's just the way it is. So, and this one does take place in present day. Sometimes he goes back to Arthur Bryant's memoirs, and so they take you to a case that took place maybe in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever. And that could be good too. So I think that's a good way of maybe expending their energies in a different way. So I did like it. I did like it very much. I highly recommend it if you're into slightly odd mysteries and weird esoteric type of references. There's definitely a market for people out there. Anyway, so I hope you've enjoyed my Tia mystery. I might do another one this month. I may not. I don't know how much farther I'm going to get in my mystery books. And so let me know how you guys are doing reading wise. Are you reading more now, or are you reading less? I've been hearing a lot of people talking about reading a little less than they'd like to. or than they plan to. But yeah, just let me know and comment down below, etc. So this has been Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and mystery-filled day. Bye.